Tinubu slashes foreign local trips expenditures by 60%. So is that a way to cut back on the cost of governance? He needs to also slash the size of his cabinet. It's not just slashing trips or slashing expenditures. He needs to slash the size of his cabinet. He has a very bloated cabinet and thinking or saying that that is his own way of creating jobs. But now he has seen that he has also put people that he will not be able to manage or control, because the larger the size of the cabinet, the more difficult it will be to manage them. Now the thing is beginning to show from what happened with Betaidu. It's beginning to show that most of the people in that cabinet are going to do a lot of embezzlement, a lot of evil, and so he needs to trim down the size of that cabinet so he can manage them, not just trimming down the size of all the local trips and expenditures. But again, let's get into the details to see how he's doing it. President Bola Tinubu has slashed the expenditure on all official travel, domestic and international trips by 60%. Okay, for foreign trips, the president will be accompanied by 20 persons, while the vice president will have just 5 persons, and the first lady also will have 5 persons, respectively. For local trips, the president will be accompanied by 25 persons, and the vice president 15 persons, while the First Lady will have 10 persons. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajurin Gelale, who briefed State House correspondent of the latest development, revealed that President Tinubu has, by his most recent directives, approved a massive cost-cutting exercise that will touch across the entire federal government of Nigeria and the offices of the president himself, the vice president, and office of the first lady. It will be conducted in the following fashion. So according to the presidential media AD, official trips within the country involving the president or the vice president will experience significant cost reductions. This is as a result of the president's directive to slash the substantial bills associated with allowances and extra code for security details traveling from Abuja to those states. So he said the security outfits within states, whether it is the DSS, police, DSS, or branches of the military, will frontline his protective details when he traveled to those states. A major cost-cutting initiative that will affect the office of the vice president as well as the office of the first lady. Okay, so Gelale also added that when any international trip is being approved, the following limits have been placed on all ministers of the Federation. 4 members of their staff, appointees, and the like will be allowed to travel with minister on official trip. For heads of agencies, that will be limited to 2 members of staff allowed to travel on an official trip. Furthermore, the numbers that the president has approved or now approved for official trip with him that will apply for his principal staff that will apply for his principal staff as follows. On international trip, the president has directed that no more than 20 individuals be allowed to travel with him. That number will be cut down to 5 in the case of the First Lady. Additionally, the number in the entourage on official international trip for the Vice President will be cut down to 5. The number of that will be placed as a limit on the wife of the Vice President. Is 5 also. So he explained that in terms of local trips, the president has approved a new limit of 25 persons of staff, members of staff, to accompany him on domestic trips within the country. He confirmed that the office of the First Lady is now limited to 10 staff members to accompany her on official trips within the country. The Vice President will be limited to 15 persons of members of staff on official trip within the country, while his wife will be limited to 10 persons or 10 members of staff on officials within the country, the same as the First Lady. Oh, so his words, it is pertinent to note that there is a difference between the number of members of staff allowed to travel with the presiding officers to international trips and those that are allowed for domestic. So you will find that the numbers on international trips are less than those allowed on domestic trips. This is because international trips are far more expensive across the board, and the president is determined to bring total sanity and prudence to the management of the Commonwealth of our people. So as a result of this, the president has directed that every federal MDA, also including the office of the president itself and the office of the vice president, as well as offices of the first lady and second lady, are affected and bound by this directive of the president. Henceforth, the president is insistent that the notion of government wastage, the notion of recurrent expenditure being in excess, the notion that government officials will be allowed to conduct their affairs in a way that is different from what we are asking of Nigerian citizens with respect to prudence and cost management, those days are over. So the president is insistent that the prudence of government officials must reflect the prudence and efficiency of Nigerian citizens, and this is the directive of the president. Thank you very much, according to Ngelale. So ask if this new directive or restrictions will come in form of an executive order. Ajuri simply replied, with respect to the adherence to this most recent directive of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I believe we do not need to convince the officers of the federal government of Nigeria of the seriousness of the president with respect to how he will implement his directive. That is his response. So if there is anybody who feels that the directive of the president is not binding on them and who feels that the president will not uphold the directive in implementation and seek to test it, they will do so at their own peril. Now, wow. So Tinubu wants to show that he's serious and that he means business, I mean. But the thing here, that is a very good initiative or a very good move to cut down cost of governance by removing this or reducing these bloated trips. But again, just because APC has been known for propaganda, so people will definitely doubt this until we see everything they tell us must be doubted. Will definitely be doubted until we see it being enforced, until we see it being implemented. I'm sure Tinubu and his wife, the vice president and his wife, and some heads of parastatals are going to make some trips any moment from now, and then we will see how this applies. Because now that they're asking, is this going to come in the form of an executive order? And Ngelale did not provide a definite answer to that, saying that the president is very serious about it, and any parastatal or any affected persons or group of persons that think that the president is not serious and want to do otherwise will do so at his or our own peril. That's exactly the response Ngelale is giving. But again, there has to be a documented order. If it is verbal, then it is a joke. That is the truth. If it's verbal, then there's no commitment, and then anybody can do whatever he likes, and the president will ask and say, well, I choose to because it was necessary. So there's a reason Tinubu is not documenting this order, and that is why it should not be trusted until it is seen in action first. That is it. Okay, but again, like I was saying, we need him to cut down the size of his cabinet. This one is just, cutting the branches. We're not getting to the root yet. The size of his cabinet is just too bloated, and that has to be reduced. We cannot tell Nigerians to, because that size of the cabinet is one of the reasons the budget is as affected as well. When you have too many people in government and too many, all of them with big entitlement, you see that the budget will be very big to manage such cabinet. Exactly. And that is why we are seeing very heavy amount allocated to the executives and to the legislators, because the size of government is just too big. That is it. So until he starts cutting down on the size of government, we are not there yet. So that is exactly what is happening. Thank you for listening, and let's have a comment.